Corey Anderson fights Karl Moore. Patricio Pitbull fights Jeremy Kennedy, and much, much more here at Bellator 302. Andy and Jim here to break down all the fights for you. We got some fights that we're not going to go over too much in depth. You don't need us to tell you that Nathan Kelly should beat beat Vikas Singh. So we're just gonna go through these fights, and we'll talk a little bit more in depth about the fights that are pretty close. So if you guys could hit the like button, tell us what your best bet is. I would love seeing the comments, seeing what you guys like for this Bellator card. We got some really good lines too. Like there's some basically pick 'em. So we got some very, very good heavy favorites, but then we got a lot of fights that are pretty close. So Nate Kelly, Jordan Elliott. If you have the non-domestic books, it's Nate Kelly, but it's very heavily juiced. Alfie Davis is fighting Oscar Owensworth. We don't know much about Oscar Owensworth. When I say not much, I don't know anything about Oscar Owensworth, so I will be staying away from that one. But Luke Traynor and Grant Neal will get us started. And wow, polarizing fight here because we've got Luke Traynor, who is plus money, and most people really like Traynor in this one. So, Jim, I'm going to let you talk about Traynor first because you've been on him for years. So tell us about Luke Traynor and curious line why he's the underdog on this one.
Yeah, I've seen some early line movement on some of the offshores, and now that the domestics have opened, there's some curious odds coming out. Look, the first thing everybody's going to say is he's a giant, and he is. 6'6" at this weight class is huge. Huge. This is his natural weight class, which is something we'll get to in a minute. But Luke Traynor's been around a while, and he's hovered as this contender. He's been fighting some up-and-comers. Really good win against Sullivan Cauley. Really good win. Sullivan Cauley is a bit of a boxer and not a really heavy wrestler, but he was a fighter that Bellator was pushing, and pushing hard. So he comes out of nowhere and gets the upset against Sullivan Cauley as an underdog. Look, Traynor is fantastic in dominant positions on the ground. His size, his length lends him to really have great control, really slick back takes. His long arms allow him to get those guillotines and Darce chokes in. He is trouble on the ground. What I like about his stand-up is that he throws a lot of things straight down the middle, and as a tall fighter, that's what maximizes your reach. So he always has this reach. He's used to fighting with it. He will fight long. He's also not opposed to getting in tight and making this a dirty fight. I've liked Traynor for a while. I really have. And I was very surprised at this line. Grant Neal is a good fighter. A good fighter. But I see the physical advantages and the diverseness of the game for Luke Traynor in this fight.
Yeah, I wasn't that impressed with his last fight against Romero Cotton. I just didn't. I mean, I guess just look at his finishes: unanimous, split, unanimous, split. Now we're down to Tyree Fortune in 2021, where he actually gets a finish. So they're not the most exciting fights, which is going to be a theme with a lot of these fighters. That there's probably not going to be a lot of amazing high-level stand-up striking, and that's kind of what we saw with Romero Cotton. I didn't see a lot of explosion out of Neal, but man, he's a big favorite. I guess the thinking is that he's just going to kind of outgrind Traynor here in this one?
I think that people are leaning on the fact that Traynor's not going to be able to get him out of there in the first round and a half. And
okay.
There is the thought that Traynor can't go 3 hard, but the size difference is what I come back to. Grant Neal has not fought anybody remotely this big or that is going to weigh this much more than him on fight night. Weighing it at 205 is fine, but Luke Traynor is going to walk in here at 220, 225 pounds. And I don't know if Grant Neal's ready for that. Grant Neal also had his last fight, down a weight class. He's been jumping between light heavyweight and weight classes below. So now this is a step up. I mean, how much weight can you put on? Is it the correct weight? Is this gas tank the same as the gas tank at 185? We don't know that. And I know he's looked good. I know he's got a nice shiny record just like Traynor. But, man, I could see Traynor kind of teaching him a lesson that these 205 boys are a different animal and that he needs to be. And he does need to be at 185. I'll tell you, there's no reason for him to be at light heavyweight. And that's what's swaying me towards Traynor.
Luke Trainer can be had for like plus 140. Really, really
Yeah,
nice price
good
there.
number.
Yeah, so Abraham Babley and Isaiah Pinson. I don't know too much about these guys. They're both 3-0. Um, I don't know. What can you tell us about this one? It's not a fight I'm going to be interested in betting. Babley's minus 185. Isaiah Pinson's plus 154. I guess I just don't know enough about these guys. And you look at their film, and it's fine. They're both 3-0, but have they really fought anybody like amazing? Probably not. So it feels I don't want to say low level, but it's just not a fighter that I can see having any type of really really big, advantage. I mean, Pinson, let's face it, he beat Freeman, but that was a split decision. It's not the greatest win in the world. So for me, this is a pass. Really, really no opinion. I could see someone get finished. I could see it going the distance. I could see either of them walking out. So I guess it's kind of a dog or pass situation.
That's a good way of looking at it. I remember Pinson, his fights in PFL. Now, to his credit, he knocked off two undefeated guys, but they weren't good showings. It really wasn't. I think more so it was Freeman gassing in that fight and allowing Pinson to work his way back in. Babley has been a little bit of a hype prospect. Okay, he fights out of London. Not real big for this weight class. 5'11" at this weight class is not a good stock. And usually when you see guys who are 5'11", they're built. Yeah, Babley's a little soft, This I actually could see being a very tight decision. I don't see the massive finishing potential from either guy, and both these guys have taken shots and kind of found their way to work through it. This could be one of those up against the fence, just they're leaning on each other in round 3. So if you wanted to look away here, I would look towards this fight going over. If we can get a good line on, maybe they mess up and they give us a 1.5 when the plays drop. Maybe taking over 1.5. I think over 2.5 could be a good play. I could just see both of these guys in survival mode, 7 minutes through this fight, managing their cardio. They're both 3-0. They're very, very raw, and this is going to be new experiences for both of them being on this stage.
The two big favorites, Nathan Kelly over Vikas Singh and Surya Clark over Darius Mafi. We don't need much breakdown. You want to talk about Vikas and the Indian?
Yes, so we've all loved Alaska FC fighters, right? So
Love them.
We've all loved those
them.
Alaska FC fighters. Well, we have a new Alaska FC. India has been trying to crank out some MMA talent. It's very big over there. These guys fight like every weekend over there. I mean, you look at some of their records, and they've been fighting for a year, and they have 15 fights. It's crazy. But it is not a good level of competition. I mean, scroll down this record, look at the competition. So I wanted to bring this up because this is an angle that we're going to be looking at in the future. Is these guys coming out of the Indian MMA regional scenes. We've seen it. We cashed a great bet with Impa when he fought somebody against us, and it was a no sweat. It was very obvious in the first minute that this guy had no business being in, USA MMA. He needed a lot more to go. So, yes, Kelly should roll. Yes, Clark should roll. I would not refrain anybody, depending on the lines when they come out, but using both of these guys by finish. Because I seriously doubt both of these fights go the distance. This is a showcase for Nathan Kelly and Syrian Clark in Ireland on a big card. First card of Bellator since the merger. They are going to push these guys, and they have been giving them very, very easy competition. Both of these guys could win by finish. And both of these fights could end in round 1. I would be looking at a really good line on under 1.5s in these.
Love it. All right, let's get into some fights that should be more competitive. James Gallagher and Leandro Higo. Mm-hmm. So Higo, got to be honest, man. He got the win against McCallough. I didn't think it was that impressive, man. I thought McCallough controlled him, and he tried to get a guillotine several times, and in the second round, he comes out, pushes McCallough up against the fence, has some decent control time, but they break, and it's just, I don't know, to me it's kind of obvious Higo just doesn't really have great striking. Mikhailov, kicks him in the leg, it knocks him down, and Higo jumps and grabs the guillotine and gets out of there. But the eye test, I didn't think he looked that strong, like on the feet. I didn't think he was that impressive. James Gallagher, I think I know James Gallagher is going to be much stronger. When they get into the wrestling, it's power goes to Gallagher. Higo can snatch a submission. I like Gallagher at plus money, and if Gallagher wins, this might be the most boring fight on the card, which could be saying a lot with some of these guys. I could totally see Gallagher just grabbing him and holding him and doing enough to not get separated, and as long as he stays out of the submission game, I think Gallagher is absolutely worth a little sprinkle at plus money. What do you think?
I'm actually going to say the only way you can bet this fight is by betting the plus money. Now, the reason is James Gallagher took some time off. He was an extremely hyped prospect. If you go back and look, James Gallagher was the first one when Conor McGregor saying he was the next Conor McGregor. And he came into Bellator and he leaned into that marketing machine and he got a couple wins, but he dropped 2 in a row. He took some time off. Or not 2 in a row. Was it 2 in a row? No, 1-1.
He lost. He lost.
That loss to Mix.
Yeah, the loss to Pache Mix. Then he took a couple years off and comes back.
Yeah, so we had all these canceled bouts because he was banged up, and young in his career being this banged up is not a good thing. James Gonzalez, I think, is a very good fighter. I watched that fight, and to your credit, that was one boring. It
was terrible.
Hold on, Gallagher was lucky to get that win, and honestly, I think Gonzalez gave it away. That being said, I'm not big on Higo. I'm not. You're 100% right. I was on his opponent, and I thought I was golden. That's the way that fight was going. And then out of nowhere, he snatched up that guillotine, and there goes the ticket. So this is a really, really interesting fight. I think there's going to be a lot of public money coming in on James Gallagher. So let's watch and see where these lines go. It smells like a decision. The only shot that Higo's going to have for this submission is probably going to be round 1. I think that Gallagher, if he gets in trouble or realizes it's tight, to exactly what you said, he is going to grind out this decision and get another W because he knows he needs to put some wins together at this point. So I would look at this fight over 2.5 as a parlay piece. Probably going to be a little juiced. But other than that, I'm not going to pick a side. We have better spots on the card. Be interesting to see what kind of James Gallagher we get.
Love it. Tim Wilde and Manoel Sousa, I've heard. I know you don't have a really strong opinion on this one, and the odds are basically a pick 'em. Mm-hmm. I really like Tim Wilde in this one. Sousa's 10-0. Let's examine the competition here, if we don't mind. It's coming from CFFC and SFT. He comes and he goes to Challenger Series. He fights Paulo Henrique, who's not great, and he barely gets a split decision. When we're looking at split decisions, just remember, one judge, one round is the difference between a win and a loss. So I didn't think he was that great in that one. I think he's very strong, but strong against who? And I really think Tim Wilde is going to be faster. I think he's going to be a little bit better on the feet. I saw Wilde in his last fight against Mike Hamill. I thought that was a really good performance. And this guy has ripped off some pretty good wins in a row against better competition. And when you look at these guys that are like 10-0 that haven't been fighting a great competition, we got to understand. This guy Sousa, he's not going to finish his career undefeated. He's going to lose. Mm-hmm. So that undefeated streak is coming to a head, and I think this is the step up in competition where he learns a valuable lesson. I think a veteran gives him the veteran experience in there. I think he pieces him up on the feet. And Wilde got the knockout in round 3, and his cardio was fine. He can go. If this is a 5-round fight, he could do it no problem. So I think Sousa is going to have to get him out of there in the first round. If he does it, you're going to see Wilde really start to take advantage because I didn't think Sousa's cardio looked that good. I like Wilde here. I think it's a very, very fair price. So This is one of my favorite bets on this card, just considering the juice and everything. I think Wilde takes away his 0, and Sousa this is a real good learning experience for him. What do you think?
Well, you hit the nail on the head with the record. Tim Wilde has a really good strength of competition. I mean, there's nobody in his past 4 fights that are chumps. None. 0. We were just talking about James Gonzalez. He's a good fighter. Good fighter. Mike Hamill, good fighter. Yves Lando, good fighter. Really, he lost to Brett Primus. Listen, that's Brett Primus in his prime. No pun intended, but it's the different fighter than we have now. So I like where you're going with this one with Wilde. I didn't have a really strong opinion, but I will say you're talking me into it. And it's one of these where I think the O's got to go, and you got to have that lesson at some point in your career. Like you said, we've only had one fighter retire undefeated. Only one.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen again.
Yeah, Sousa's not on that level for sure.
No.
So I like Wilde in this one. Fabian Edwards and Aaron Jeffery. I'll let you go first on this one. What's your breakdown on this fight?
So I have a love-hate relationship with Aaron Jeffery. Aaron Jeffery just broke my heart against Johnny Sauter. Just broke my heart. I don't know what was up with Jeffery that night. He looked flat. He just got wrestled. He was up against the cage, getting wrestled, and just looking at his corner and giving him the, I don't know. And God, it's a fight where, Sauter retired after that fight even too. It was just, how did you lose that fight? But he responds with a unanimous, dominant win. Again, lesson learned for Dalton Rasta. Dalton Rasta is a big-time talent. Big-time gym, big-time talent. Built guy, good, well-rounded fighter. He got taught a lesson by Aaron Jeffery. I wanted to take Jeffery in that fight. I couldn't because I respect Rasta so much. So, interesting, right? Now let's click over to Fabian Edwards. And this is the glaring hole with Fabian Edwards. Look at his
And
strength.
what a hole it is, man.
And this is the man that held the belt. So, first of all, we got a good amount of canceled fights. Never like seeing that. Loses to Austin Vanderford, who's a wrestler. Not real impressive there. Beats an old Lyoto Machida. I believe Machida retired after that fight. Charlie Ward was 42, I believe, when they fought. That one's over.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, that was
right?
Machida
Yeah.
up 4 losses. Yeah.
Right? Charlie Ward, Gegard Mousasi, when they fought, God, did he look like he didn't want to be there. I mean, what was left for him to do? And then all of a sudden, he's got to fight a legit championship-level fighter in Johnny Eblen, and that was Johnny Eblen from Jump Street. I mean, it was exactly the type of fight that Johnny Eblen loves. What I don't like about Fabian Edwards is he has a hard time fighting backwards. And just like Leon, they have this mental thing that when they're losing, they just accept defeat. Leon got over that with Kamaru. Okay? But until that point, that was the knock on Leon, it had to be a mental thing. And that has come out publicly with these guys. Man, I'm starting to like Aaron Jeffery. I really am.
Me too.
I know I'm bitter with it, but I just see him pushing a pace, and I don't know if Fabian is going to be able to hang here. Look, winner of this fight gets a title shot. A lot on the line. A lot on the line here. So I'm leaning Jeffery, man.
I'm leaning Jeffery, too. I don't get it with Fabian Edwards. I mean, you just can't look at those 3 wins and go, wow, those are impressive. Like, give me a break.
And the wins themselves weren't impressive. They were wins, but, if you're fighting a retiring Lyoto Machida, a 42-year-old Charlie Ward, and you're fighting Mousasi who didn't want to be there, shouldn't those fights end early?
Yeah.
If you're a champion?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think there's a chance this is a really boring fight. I think this is
I agree.
Because if Aaron Jeffries grabs him and holds him up and again does enough to where the ref doesn't separate him and just tires out Edwards, I think he deflates Edwards, and Edwards, like you said, he's not great when he's down. He's not like a comeback like type of fighter. So yeah, I like the value on Aaron Jeffery for sure.
That being said, with this fight, this is one of my favorite fights to go the distance.
Absolutely.
This is a decision written all over it. Look, Jeffrey's not the marauder that Johnny Eblin is as far as finishing ability. He'll rely much more on control, and I think we might start seeing on Fabian's face that he just wants to survive. Jeffrey's not going to get on top of him and pound elbows. I think the only way this fight ends is if Fabian quits. That's it.
Okay.
Other than that, I think it's a clear-cut decision.
I agree. I think it's going the distance as well. So we got a couple championship fights real quick, guys. We do have a promo code if you are interested. Lang7 gets $30 off a 7-day pass. This includes 5% plays, and we do have one that is up for this weekend. We've got Bellator plays. We've got UFC plays. You'll get all of our NBA and NHL plays, and you get bare knuckle as well. Jim and I said this is the starting week where it is MMA Central, and we know we're going to do a lot of damage, and we are going to get a lot of these units and profits. It's a lot of work researching all these, but it is worth it. There are so many good betting opportunities in the MMA world starting this week with UFC, with bare knuckle, with Bellator. So this has been a really, really big week that we've been gearing up for. So encourage everyone to join us. Lang7 promo code gets $30 off a 7-day pass. We're up 43 units just in the month of March. So we're way ahead of schedule. We were plus 91 units in 2023. We're ahead of that schedule. That was our goal to try and beat it this year. So just use the promo code Andy Lang at WagerTalk.com. Absolutely no better time to jump on board and get ready for this weekend. Let's get through this weekend and show some profits, and then we'll be on to this is like a couple months of MMA, Jim. You were talking about it. It's a lot.
It's a lot to go over. I mean, it's the amount of fights that we have. I'm going to tally up the amount of actual fights that there are just to see how many we have to look through. But look, it's exciting. It's exciting, and this is the first card that's going to lead into this month, and we're going to try to get some units stacked here and just keep stacking units every week. And, we're looking for long-term success. It's not week to week. Like you said, go crazy. There's a lot of fights. So if you don't like a card, if you don't like a fight, lay off it. There's plenty more right around the corner. Plenty more.
Absolutely. Patricio Pitbull and Jeremy Kennedy. So I'm going to go first because you just heard a really good interview with Jeremy Kennedy that I want you to talk about. So with Pitbull, it's like you look at him, and he looked absolutely terrible in this fight against Sergio Pettis for reasons. Well, I get the reasons, probably money. But like almost a month later, he goes over and gets knocked out in the first round, and he was a big favorite in that one. Turns out he's hurt, but this is a guy that's taken a lot of wear and tear on his body. He's been around forever. And, you look at him and, okay, finish, but then A.J. McKee finishes him, and then he just kind of turns into a decision machine. So you got to wonder, has he lost his pep? Has he lost his power? That fight against Sergio Pettis, man, he just looked half asleep. So there was big questions. If he's back to the old Pitbull, like, okay, he got the surgery and now he's good, I think he can win on the feet against Jeremy Kennedy, and I think he can make it look, I don't want to say easy, but I think in fairly dominant fashion. But if he's not, this Jeremy Kennedy, man, he's going to grab a hold of him, he's going to wrestle him, he's going to take him to the ground, he's going to wear him out, and it's going to look like another bad showing from Pitbull. So you heard interviews with both these guys. What did you learn from the interviews? I think it's swaying us one way.
Yeah, it is. Let's start with Pitbull. So he wasn't just injured. He needed neck surgery on his C5 and C6 vertebrae. That's not just an injury. This is your central nervous system. Okay? This isn't a injury that you come out of and you're back to 100%. And I know people will say, well, what about Aljamain Sterling? He had neck surgery and he came back and looked great. Aljamain Sterling has not absorbed any damage remotely close to what this man has been through in his career. Now, he has been carrying the flag for Bellator his whole career. He's been in war after war after war. And that was their calling card, was be able to take whatever you can dish out and then knock you into next week. And I just don't think that's the same fighter that we have anymore. He's 37. To me, he's 47. The amount of mileage that is on this body is bad.
Look at this. His first Bellator fight was 2010.
Isn't that crazy?
That's crazy. And this isn't a guy that fights once a year, by the way.
No. It was a lot of 3-4 fights a year. I mean, it just go. He carried this organization, but you started to see the chinks in the armor, and you cannot go at the pace that he's gone and continue to go at this pace. We talk a lot of times about MMA passing fighters by, and I really wonder if this is the spot where we really confirm and see that the marauder that was Pitbull is not there anymore. He's become a decision fighter. He's flat out said that after the neck surgery, he has a new 100%. It's not his old 100%. He'll never be the same fighter again. Now, let's go to Jeremy Kennedy. Interview just dropped with Jeremy Kennedy today, and I was dying to get some kind of information on what's been going on. Jeremy Kennedy has known about this fight for over a year. So he was booked as the number one contender with the sale of Bellator and PFL coming up, with the last-minute Pitbull going to fight in Risen. Or what? Was it Risen or One?
I don't know
Risen?
where he... Well, Pitbull fought in Risen. But I don't know where Jeremy Kennedy was.
No, where Pitbull went and fought in Risen. So that blew out the title fight. When he got that late call, it took Kennedy, and he had to forget about the fight. Went and got another opponent. They gave him James Gallagher. He started preparing for that. Really didn't know if this Pitbull fight was going to happen or not, especially after the merger. All of a sudden, they call him and say, you got the Pitbull fight. So he has had, what he said in his interview, damn near a year of preparation specifically for Pitbull. So when he got the opponent changed from Gallagher to him, they just went right back into their Pitbull preparation. Kennedy is going to look way bigger in this cage. I think he's going to carry the weight better with Pitbull jumping up and down in weight class. Never like seeing that, especially at 37 years old. How much muscle could he put back on after cutting down for that Pettis fight? And you saw the result of that when he went over to Risen. Didn't work out well, coming off his first knockout. So a lot of people are picking Pitbull because it's Pitbull. I don't know, man. I think this is a changing of the guard. I could see Kennedy just wearing on him with the wrestling and wearing on him. And we've also seen Pitbull not look good with the damage. He shows damage really bad. So I'm starting to lean towards Kennedy here. With this new information, I think that the young lion gets the old lion out of there and we have a new champion.
If Pitbull's slow, man, we're going to know right off the bat. And it's it's like if we didn't bet it and Pitbull's slow, we're just going to be sitting there like, why didn't we bet on Kennedy? But if you're holding a Kennedy ticket and Pitbull is slow, you're just going to be loving life at that point. So, yeah, Father Time catches up, and it may have. Who knows? Mm-hmm. Maybe he's got a little last run, but man, 35-7, that is just a ton of fights there. So, yeah, I think we're leaning Jeremy Kennedy. Main event, Corey Anderson and Karl Moore. Corey Anderson's the big favorite, and I think it's justified. Maybe it may not even be steep enough.
I don't think it is.
Yeah, you're looking at like minus 375 in 5 rounds. We really like Corey Anderson in this one. Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Jim. I'll let you start.
So this is a too much too soon kind of case here, okay? Corey Anderson is probably undoubtedly the best light heavyweight in this organization. Again, former UFC fighter, strength and competition is not even close. Now, I know he just lost to Nemkov. But did everybody just see what Nemkov did to Kapalozza at heavyweight? Loss doesn't look too bad, does it? That no contest, he was beating the brakes off of Nemkov. And that headbutt just, And you're going to look at the Phil Davis split decision and say, uh-oh. But that's 2 wrestlers going at it. Like, doesn't that just have a recipe for a tight fight?
From the very beginning, it was just push up against the fence. That's all that fight
instantly,
was.
It was an NCAA wrestling match. That's all. And look, Anderson got it done. He knows that this is his last shot for undisputed gold. And he has flat out said it in his interviews. He has left no stone unturned. He is going for it. Karl Moore is not ready for this challenge. The only way I could see him winning is a flash knockout. And it's got to be early. But over 5 rounds, we've seen Karl Moore get tired in the third. And fighters flip the script on him. I don't think he's prepared for what Corey Anderson is going to bring wrestling-wise. And if Moore engages in the wrestling, which we've seen him do when he starts to get tired, well, that option's gone. It's totally gone. He's going to engage in the wrestling and get reversed and end up on his back. And I do not see Karl Moore surviving 5 rounds. I think at some point, Corey Anderson is going to leave no doubt and go after this finish. If it's round 3 and he sees Moore slow, he's going to pour it on. He's going for it.
I will also say Karl Moore was surprised when they announced his name in the last fight against Alex. Like, he was. You can't tell me he wasn't a little bit surprised on that one. Mm-hmm. It was unanimous, but he was pleasantly surprised on that one. And if you're surprised in that win, boy, you gotta bring some new weapons to the table to fight Corey Anderson. So I'm with you. Anderson is the rightful favorite. And, we talked about, like, the flash knockout, but that's not what Karl Moore does.
Exactly.
Like, look at his fight. Like, look at his fights. Decision, wins by submission. He's not submitting Corey Anderson. Another split decision, and, I don't see it. I don't see it from Karl Moore. I think we're going to end up at the end of this fight with minus 375 looking like a value. So.
Now, on these Bellator and these PFL cards, everybody needs to be aware of something, okay? So if you're a UFC bettor and this is your first time starting to dip your toe into these undercard, these lower promotions, they travel. This is in Ireland. Karl Moore is getting this shot because it's in Ireland, and they have nobody else. Really, he should be the number 5 ranked fighter against the number 1. And anytime we see that number 1 to number 5 or below, man, it's a high hit rate for the champion. Those upsets don't come along a lot. They just don't. And I just think this is a lack of options. It's in Ireland. Moore's going to have all the crowd and all the billing. And this is going to be Corey Anderson finally getting his undisputed title.
I love it. So do a quick little recap here while we're doing that, guys. Make sure, leave us a comment. Tell us who you like. Some good parlay pieces. Some pretty good pick'em fights as well. So Nate Kelly, Jordan Elliott. Jordan Elliott looks terrible, by the way.
If you get a line, Nate Kelly is going to wash Jordan Elliott. So if you can get a line, yes, Nate Kelly's a piece.
Not good. I think we like Luke Traynor at the plus money there. Huge size advantage if he can get, hopefully he gets Grant Neal out of there early. Don't really know what's going on with Trainor's cardio. We haven't seen it really tested yet. So Babley, Pinson, no opinion. Nathan Kelly and Clark, those are your huge big favorites. They both should roll. I think I don't know. Are you like Higo or you like Gallagher on this one?
I'll go head to head with you on this one. I'm gonna say that Gallagher drops the ball. Once again.
All right. I like Gallagher at plus money there. I like Tim Wilde against Sousa. I think Tim Wilde ends up giving him his first loss and a really good learning experience. I think he's just going to be too fast and going to have too much energy late in the fight. Fabian Edwards and Aaron Jeffery. We're leaning Aaron Jeffrey's a little bit of plus money on that one. Not real impressed with Fabian Edwards beating up old guys. And then Patricio, Pitbull, Jeremy Kennedy. We're going to lean with Jeremy Kennedy just with the thinking that Pitbull's better days are behind him and coming off that neck surgery, there's a chance he looks pretty bad. And then we really like Corey Anderson as the big favorite to get it done against Karl Moore. A little bit too much too soon for Karl Moore there. So, All right, guys, that is going to do it for us for the Bellator breakdown. We will have bare knuckle breakdowns and we will have UFC breakdowns. And don't forget to use the promo code Lang7. It gets all of our plays. No need to buy just one play. Just get 7 days. You get $30 off. Just go to Andy Lang's profile page at WagerTalk.com. Type in the promo code and get all plays, including 5% plays. It's going to do it for us. Good luck on all your plays, and we will see everyone next video.
Good luck, guys.